The Russia-Ukraine war raging on as President Trump says the two countries are on track for a ceasefire deal after speaking with Zelensky and Putin this week. So what will it take for both sides to come to an agreement? Fox News contributor Dan Hoffman is the former CIA chief of station in Moscow. He joins me now. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy who's been leading these negotiations, said to the press, said in an interview that it's his belief that the elephant in the room really is those 5 Ukrainian territories or regions in Ukraine that Russia has seized control of and that they believe belongs to them. He also said in the same interview, Dan, that it's his belief that Russia 100%, quote, has no intention or to invade Europe any further. I'm wondering what you make of both of those points from Steve Witkoff.
Well, I think that what I'd like to hear if I were the President of the United States is what the director of the CIA thinks. And I'm sure that President Trump is receiving those briefings at the White House. And, of course, he won't be divulging the details. But Vladimir Putin launched this barbaric invasion of Ukraine back in February of 2022 to topple the government of Kyiv and install a Kremlin puppet regime. I don't see any indication that Putin's strategic objective has been altered in any way, but Ukraine has stopped him, and Russia has only taken 18% or so of Ukraine's territory. Ultimately, how we get to a ceasefire and perhaps negotiations over a longer-term settlement, it's incredibly complicated and difficult. I think that Vladimir Putin would certainly like to win some gains at the negotiating table that his army can't. But at the same time, I think he wants to deny Ukraine the ability to deter a future Russian attack. And that's going to be obviously a sticking point for President Zelensky, as he has to deal with potentially putting European peacekeepers in Ukraine and assuring that he has the arms he needs to deter Russia in the future.
Dan, what does it tell you that there's talks here of they're trying to finalize the final details here of a ceasefire of sorts that revolves around not going after energy infrastructure? What do you make of this ceasefire? Again, they're ironing out the details. They're supposed to this weekend in Saudi Arabia and on Monday. What does that tell you about the prospects of a more permanent ceasefire and the fact that they are specifically going after energy here?
Well, they had those discussions, and look, that's already been broken. Russia's hit Ukraine's energy infrastructure, and Russia would have wanted that sort of a deal because Ukraine has taken the fight inside Russian territory and targeted Russian oil and gas facilities that limits Putin's ability to export hydrocarbons and earn the money he needs to carry on his war. But look, I think in the larger sense, wars end when one side wins or when both sides are too exhausted to fight. And I have this feeling that President Trump, God bless the Trump administration, the war is abhorrent, but I think we want it more than Russia does at this point. If Vladimir Putin wanted to stop the war, he could do it. He started it. He could stop spilling so much blood and his own treasure. But he hasn't done that. And to me, that's very telling.
Do you see any willingness here by the Trump administration to put pressure on Putin at this stage of the ceasefire to make it less likely that he would continue to want to be in this war?
Right. I think that's the big question. I think, again, that's where the CIA can be of some help to the president about Putin's plans and intentions, his pain points. The Trump administration has tried to entice Putin to the bargaining table, offering the potential, at least, for an economic relationship that was broken 3 years ago when Putin invaded Ukraine, and there's no indication at the moment, at least, that that's enough. The question is whether we might have to throw some sticks at Russia and rearm Ukraine further and show Russia that it's not in their interest to carry on the war. I think that's the policy decision for President Trump, and depending upon how these negotiations go next week, you know, he'll have to be swiveling in one direction or the other in order to induce the outcome that we all want.
And I guess in a word, Dan Hoffman, quickly, where do you think this is right now? Are you more optimistic or less optimistic than you were even a week ago about this ending?
Yeah, it's hard to be optimistic. It reminds me of what I used to hear from a contact I had when I served in Iraq that used to tell me, you know, things are pretty bad today, but at least they'll be worse tomorrow. Oftentimes when you've got a war like this, it's hard to be too optimistic. But we got to laud the Trump administration for doing all they can to stop the bloodshed.
Dan Hoffman, thank you as always for your expertise. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.